Chris, thank you for taking the time. How's your day going aside from answering the same 5 questions over and over and over again?
No, I mean, whenever you do something like be involved in a special movie like Terrifier 2, you want to talk about it. And that's why I'm doing this. So ask the same 5 questions away.
How long were you on the set for Terrifier 2 for?
It was how long was I on the set? Was it 2 days? I think it might have been 2 days that we filmed. And the initial scene was much longer. The ending of the movie had to be switched because in the 3 years it took to make the movie and get it all ready to go, another movie came out that had the same ending, the literal same ending that we had filmed. So we kind of had to recut it and reshoot a couple scenes. But yeah, it was about 2 nights, and they were cold nights because it was October. It was New York City, Staten Island. We were just getting out of the lockdown, so it was a little bit of a creepy feeling, which fit the vibe perfectly. And we filmed it in an abandoned mental institution, basically. So, you talked about wanting to be creeped out. Well, that's a good way of doing it. It's almost like one of those horror movies within a horror movie. I was waiting for that to happen.
So you got to do the Bruce Willis, Nicolas Cage, I'm only available for 2 days, this is what you got thing?
Yeah, and I did the Bruce Willis too, where I demanded that Damien just CGI my face onto my double, and that way I don't even have to show up at all.
That is such a great rumor, and I hope that is true. But I thought this film was actually done in October 2019. You're saying October 2020 is when you filmed?
Yeah, no. Oh, dude, they were filming all the way up to about 4 months ago. I know that Damien had one last kill. I believe it's the guy in the costume shop. They just filmed like literally months ago. So they had such a long wait in between, when lockdown came, that I think he thought about refilming a few things. So yeah, I filmed, I believe it was October of 20. So it's 2 years ago now for my involvement, and it still took another 2 years to get the thing out and ready to go. So, they've been meticulously crafting it for many, 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 many years.
Oh, okay. I thought it was October 2019, and I was going to try and figure out how the heck you could launch AEW, prep for the cruise, finish the Fozzie album, and do that at the same time, but you didn't have.
Yeah, no, it was the next year because we were still kind of coming out of lockdown. It was New York State, so there were still rules about quarantining and that sort of thing, and it was it wasn't the easiest film but to shoot, but we got her done.
Right. So I've read that you've called Art the Clown the most iconic horror clown movie killer that we've had, or basically the most iconic movie killer that we've had since Jason Voorhees and Freddy in the 80s. What was your introduction exactly to Art the Clown?
I was on tour with Fozzie on the bus, and Rich Ward, the guitar player in Fozzie, said, I got this movie, you got to see it. He loves horror movies too. And I was like, Terrifier, I don't even, what does that mean? He goes, it's about this weird clown. I was like, whatever. He goes, and about 20 minutes later, he came back and he said, you got to watch this. I'm like, okay. And it was the scene, the hacksaw scene. And I remember watching, going, this is the most vicious kill I've seen in like 15 years. And I watch a lot of horror movies. Mm-hmm. And then this clown, this character was so riveting to me that I instantly watched the movie, and I was obsessed with like the movie, the grittiness of it, the way it was written. And then of course, Art the Clown himself, which is the most iconic horror movie character in the last 25 years. And I saw that right out of the gate. So I started just promoting the movie and telling everybody about it on my podcast and, on social media. And with 12 million followers, word got around that I was a big fan of the movie. And that's kind of how I got connected with David and how I got connected with Damien. And that's we just moved on from there.
What was your introduction to horror? I'm going to guess it was Evil Dead.
No, it's before that. So when I was a kid, pre-VCR, like late 70s, early 80s, I always wanted to, on Saturday nights in Winnipeg, there was 2 horror movies at midnight and like 2 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And my mom would let me watch them, but I had to go to sleep first. So, cause I was probably 9 years old. So if I could go to bed at like 10 or 10:30 and get an hour and a half sleep,
right,
I set my alarm for midnight. And if I got up, I was allowed to go downstairs and watch the movies. And 9 times out of 10, I did get up. But the one time 1 out of 10, when I slept in, I would just be so angry at myself for missing these movies. And all of these movies on TV were all the Hammer movies or the Universal classics. So that was my steady diet of horror. And this is, once again, pre-VHS. You never knew if you're going to get to see this movie again ever. So I would watch like very vigilantly. And then when VHSs did start coming out, horror was the first genre that really put everything out on video cassette. So when you went to the video store, you know, if the new James Bond movie was out and they would be reserved, or it's reserved for the next 3 weeks, I could go see I Spit on Your Grave right now, or get Mother's Day or whatever it was. So I got a steady diet then of every weekend. So that's kind of where it all started. And Evil Dead was in that realm, but earlier on it was Wolfman, it was Frankenstein, it was you know, Blood of Dracula, and you know, all of the horror of the Hammer and the Universals combined was kind of my diet when I was a kid.
The last time I had the pleasure of interviewing you, I force-fed you metal and Van Halen questions, and I asked you, hey, who are your metal Van Halen buddies backstage in AEW? And you mentioned that Moxley has seen the Kiss mid 80s concert from MTV, Animalized Live. But who are your horror buddies in AEW?
So the Blade and Bunny, his wife, Jesse and Laura, they're massive horror movie fans. Like, they just texted me the other day asking me for Giallo movies, Italian horror movies. Which ones would you watch? And I was like, well, you got to see Suspiria, you got to see Zombie, and you got to see Demons, and you got to see, you know, House by the Cemetery. So they're really into the horror vibes. So those are the ones that I talk to the most about, kind of this more intricate. Like, they actually had tickets for Terrifier 2 tonight, but they're not on the show, so they're going in Buffalo. And then Luther and I are going tonight. Luther's a big horror movie fan as well. So there's a lot of us out there, but for the really intricate ones, there's only a few.
And Terrifier 2 is not the only big thing in your world right now. Of course, Fozzie touring will be resuming in the near future. How's your voice healing up?
It's getting better, man. I mean, it's one of those things that I was thinking like, oh, when the bruising goes away, that you'll just be able to sing again. And it's like, no, it's not like that. If you tear your shoulder, it doesn't just get better. You got to do the rehab and start with 3-pound weights. So that's kind of where I'm at. We have a tour that starts in a month from today in England. And I started kind of just recalibrating my singing to where we'll be great. We'll be great for the tour. And as I still continue to get stronger, you just have to relearn some things, and then it's going to come back. So it's going good. It's a lot better now than it was 2 weeks ago, which was a lot better than it was 2 weeks before that. So just 32 years in wrestling, and 1,000 clotheslines over the ropes to the floor. Never had a problem. This was just one of those things. It was the right place at the wrong time, or the wrong place at the right time, or whatever you want to say.
Right. Well, down to the last few questions about what else Mr. Jericho is working on. The Jericho 30 book, very well received, a unique book format. Is there another book in the works from you?
Not right now, and only because writing a book is a lot of hard work. And even with Jericho 30, which is a book I've been writing my whole career, it still was a lot of work. And there's a certain level of anything that I do, but especially my books, I've had 5 of them, have all been well received. I mean, Jericho 30, no publisher wanted to release it, so I released it myself and made the most money I've made on any book since book 1 back in 2007. So I have no issues doing another book. I just have to have a spare year to do one, and I'm not there yet. When the inspiration hits, then you're writing nonstop. I'm not there yet. It's usually 3 years between books, and Jericho 30 is now 2 years old. So maybe next year at this time, ask me the same question, and we'll see where we're at.
We'll do. Next question. Your dad, a New York Rangers legend. The New York Rangers used to practice in this town of Long Beach, Long Island, New York. Were you ever out here?
Yeah, I was born in Manhasset. So I went to practice a bunch of times. I don't know if that's where they practiced back in 1973, but I remember going to practice with my dad, and he was maybe there were 5 people, or maybe there's 100. When you're a little kid, you don't know.
Right.
And he was signing autographs, and somebody asked me to sign my autograph, and I didn't know how to sign my name yet, so I just signed X. Now, I don't know if that is actually a true story, but in my memory, that's my memory of it, of signing X, or maybe I signed a, but I didn't know I was 3 years old. I didn't know how to write my fucking name. So I literally remember signing my first autograph was some X or some fucking symbol for a fan in Long Beach. So if that fan is around, you could have the first autograph of Chris Jericho.
And the last question before I let you go, it has to be Van Halen, David Lee Roth one. Your cruise, you named one of your cruises after an obscure David Lee Roth lyric. So what is your favorite David Lee Roth solo album, and is it Sonrisa Salvaje?
And by the way, that is exactly where I got that from. Oscar, Grammy, triple whammy, cut, it's a take from It's Showtime. I mean, Sonrisa Salvaje is such a weird experiment. And I've been trying to get Roth on Talk is Jericho for years. I almost had him right before the pandemic, and then the lockdown shut everything down. But why he did the entire Eat 'Em and Smile album in Spanish, I have no idea. It's a very Roth thing to do, though. But I mean, listen, I fell in love with A Little Ain't Enough. It's very underrated. I wish that Roth could have done at least just one show with Jason Becker. I would have loved to have seen the set list between the Eddie tunes, the Vi tunes, and his own stuff. But you can't beat Eat 'Em and Smile. We always say it's the best, most technical prog rock party album of all time. And for Dave to come out of the gate with that album after leaving Van Halen, because you're like, oh my gosh, what's he going to do? And that was just like, holy shit. It took me about 3 or 4 years before I even gave 5150 a shot, because I was like, well, Eat 'Em and Smile wins. And now obviously you realize that 5150 is a brilliant album too. But for me, I was Roth all the way. And it's like, he's winning. And we went to the arena. He played arenas on his first solo tour. And then just the bottom fell out. And of course, you can't beat Eddie, and Van Halen took over again. But that Eat 'Em and Smile to this day, even though it's only 30 minutes long, it's very short, but still, like I said, the most technically advanced prog rock party album of all time.
I've never heard it called that, and that is perfect.
I'm right though, right? It's perfect description.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you for the many years of great entertainment. Looking forward to whatever is coming next. Terrifier 3, perhaps. But in the meantime, congrats on your championship win, and looking forward to it all.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Good talking to you.
Paltrocast.